I'm Ashley.
And I'm Dan.
And this is Fuck That. It's episode 9. And also, what month is it, Dan?
September.
It is September, which means it's Halloween, basically.
No, it doesn't.
It's fucking Halloween, all right?
No.
It's Halloween, guys. Don't listen to Dan. He doesn't know shit.
It's like 2 months out.
Doesn't matter.
It's summer still. Like,
I have
legitimately.
a Halloween tattoo. I live mentally in Halloween Town. You don't know what movie that's from because you had a sheltered childhood.
That's
it is
like
It's Halloween. So
no, the fucking guy with the Nightmare Before Christmas guy. Is that him?
Not what I was referring to, but yes, there's a Christmas Town. Yes. Jack Skellington, Nightmare Before Christmas. Jesus
Right.
Christ. Anyway, so because it's Halloween, we are going to be covering true crime cases that have a creepy element in them until Halloween. Maybe a little bit after. I love Halloween, so I might delve into this shit.
At some point, I deserve my own episode still.
I have to have Halloween time.
Yeah, sure.
But we're going to be covering a great case. Today, we're going to be talking about the DeFeo family murders, a.k.a. the Amityville Horror story. Have you heard of it?
I have.
Good.
But I've never seen the movie.
What?
Maybe I have, but I don't remember it.
No, we're not talking about the Ryan Reynolds shit.
But I don't remember it. I don't even know if he was in it or not.
He was in the remake, and it was just...
I don't know. Horror's not my thing, man.
Yeah, I know. All right.
I know.
Anyway, 112 Ocean Avenue, Amityville, Long Island. It is known as the most haunted house in the United States. Again, Amityville's in Long Island. It's actually about an hour east of Manhattan. And it's filled with a lot of fancy fucking homes, good schools. And in 1965, Ronald DeFeo Jr. and his wife Louise decided to purchase the large 3-story waterfront Dutch colonial property built in 1925.
Baller. I actually just bought one of those last week.
I bought 5.
Right.
Get on my fucking level.
I mean,
I piss Lambos.
All right. I'll step my game up.
I piss Lambos in glitter.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they put a small sign on a lamppost at the end of their driveway to name their home. It read, High Hopes. You like that?
It's almost like a boat name.
That's actually truthful, and I found it ironic because, obviously we're going to talk about fucking murder, so those hopes were shit on. Anyway, I'm going to get into the family. Ronald Joseph DeFeo Sr., they called him Big Ronnie. I thought that was sweet. Married Louise Brigante. I never knew how to say that. You're Italian.
Probably Brigante.
I'm so sorry if I say it incorrectly. In spite of her parents' disapproval of Ron. And her parents actually didn't speak to either of them until their first child, Ron Jr., was born. Unfortunately, Ronald Sr. was abusive and toxic with his family, especially his wife. And because Ron was his oldest son, he caught, a brunt of that as well. Ron's friends said that they constantly saw his mother covered in bruises and black eyes. And again, Ron Jr. caught his dad's temper the most out of their 5 children, according to all accounts. So Ronald Joseph Butch DeFeo Jr. was born on September 3rd, 1951. Being the firstborn and the firstborn son, Ronnie also put a lot of pressure on him. During his childhood, Ron was overweight. In the 1950s, this was a lot more uncommon than it is now, so he got bullied really badly for it. And this continued up until he was a teenager, and he actually started using amphetamines. Okay, so wild fact about the 1950s. What a time to be alive. They just used amphetamines to fucking... It was put out there as a diet pill.
Fuck Dexedrine, man.
Dude,
Give me
people
that.
just
Give me that
out
Adderall.
there snorting Adderall to lose weight. Like, what a time to be alive,
they should
man.
make that legal now. I'm just saying.
Absolutely not. Are you crazy?
I mean, I got a couple pounds to drop.
Sarcasm doesn't translate well via microphone, Daniel.
Yes, it does.
Anyway. I don't even know where I was at. Oh, okay. So, after that, he began to use LSD and heroin and started consuming scotch every day. So now he's using amphetamines, acid, heroin, and scotch.
I mean, he sounds like a very refined individual to me. If he drinks scotch, come on.
This is not Anchorman. And this is all before he was 17. So it's actually like really sad. I mean, he's obviously not doing well. So, and he's not coping with it well. So by 17, he was expelled from school due to volatile behavior. His parents were obviously really worried about him, so they took him to see a psychiatrist, but Ron ended up refusing to go, and he insisted that he didn't need any help. Every time I say the word Ron, I cannot help but think to Jersey Shore, Ron! And it's just like, I hear Sam saying, Ron, stop, in my head, just so you know.
I don't know. Every time you say Ron, I think Ronnie for some reason, and I don't even know what I'm connecting it to.
Maybe Ronnie from the Jersey Shore.
What's Ron, though, right? He went by Ron.
Ron and Ronnie.
I don't know.
You're probably thinking of the Jersey Shore. Let's be serious. Anyway, so he refused to go, and he insisted he didn't need any help. Then he ended up working at his grandfather's Buick dealership in Brooklyn and commuted there daily. Yikes. That's a fucking commute, Long Island to Brooklyn. Fuck that. I'm all set.
I haven't looked at the map, but it might be actually not as bad as you think it is.
It's pretty shitty. He often, this is going to come as a shock to you, didn't show up to work. But they still continued to pay him, buy him gifts, and give him money, which he then used to...
give to charity.
Yes. He was very charitable. No, he used it to buy drugs.
Well, that's the benefit of working for family, is that, you know,
you
don't have to be a real person.
It's fucked. So he was completely dependent on heroin, obviously, by his teenage years. And obviously mixing uppers, downers, hallucinogens, and alcohol was just not... It's not good for anybody. You're not going to have a good time. In 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. was 23, and he was obviously in the throes of alcohol use disorder, opiate use disorder, LSD, and he was just constantly in trouble. But things for Ron were about to get worse. Much worse. November 13th in 1974, Ron Jr. arrived to work early, but his father, Ron Sr., wasn't there yet, and that was really strange. Ron's younger brother sustained an injury earlier that year, and Wednesdays were typically his PT day, so he thought that maybe his dad had taken him to PT, and that's why his dad wasn't there yet. But by noon, his dad still didn't show up, and Ron eventually got bored, so he decided to leave work to hang out with his friends and get hammered. Eventually, later on in the afternoon, he told his friends that he was worried because nobody seemed to be home and nobody was answering the phone, and that he hadn't heard from anybody all day. But he couldn't have been that worried because he continued to drink. Am I right? Doesn't really seem like he's that worried.
I mean, that could be his coping mechanism.
If something's wrong with your parents, whether you have alcohol use disorder or not, you're probably going to be like, let me check on them first. If you are not yet drunk. If you're that worried, you're probably not just going to go out and drink. You'll probably check and then drink. I don't know. That's my thought.
Well, that might be like a common occurrence in their family. You know, that might not be that far out of the normal for them.
It is abnormal. And you're going to find out why right now. So, around 6:30 p.m., Ron Jr. ran into Henry's bar and shouted, "You've got to help me! I think my mother and father are shot." Not normal, obviously. So a group of people that were at the bar, which was actually not too far from the house, including his best friend, Bobby Kelski. He was actually the driver. They drove the group to Ron's house, and he also went first into the DeFeo home through the unlocked front door, which I was like, I need a best friend like that. He got a group of people together, drove him there, and then he was like, buddy, I'm going to go inside and check it out. Like, I just thought that was fucking wholesome, but I also feel horrible for him because what he found probably fucked him up for life. Bobby ran up to the master bedroom where he found Ron Sr. and Louise dead. He got sick, which is very understandable, and he was carried out of the house, but one other person walked through the rest of the home to check on the others, where they found his two younger brothers. So they exit the home, and as Bobby exits, he tells DeFeo's other friend, Joe Yeswit, what they saw, and he calls Suffolk County police, who later arrive on scene and discover his two sisters. So we have 6 people. Ron Sr., he was 43. His mother, Louise, was 43. Don was 18, Allison was 13, and Mark was 12, and John was 9. So really just...
That's fucked up.
It's horrible.
Shitty.
All of them, especially when I think about like 9 and 12 and 13. I mean, it's horrible for all of them, but it's like...
Well, I feel bad for even the cops that had to go see that shit.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's especially in like Suffolk County. That's like a nicer... I mean, I know shit goes down there, but still, it's like a nicer, wealthier, at least in this area, right? So it's just... I don't know. Anyway. All of them had been shot with a .35 caliber lever action Marlin 336C rifle around 3 a.m. His parents were shot twice, but the rest of his siblings were killed by a single gunshot. And just jumping ahead a bit, his family ended up being buried in St. Charles Cemetery in Farmingdale. So when the initial officer arrived on scene, he had asked Ron Jr. to escort him into the house and not like walk through it, but just kind of give him the lowdown. But Ron was like, nope, I don't want to see my family dead. I refuse to step foot into this house. But he eventually ended up coming into the house and just sitting at the kitchen table, and everything had up and upstairs. So just entering the house, he wasn't going to be exposed to anything. Once the initial officer looked into the bedrooms, he was like, nope. And he called for backup, which was needed because you have 6 people. So Detective Gasper Randazzo, I think.
Gasper Randazzo?
I think so.
Sounds right.
It's a badass name. I don't know if I'm butchering it, but this dude's a fucking G. I'm sorry if I didn't get it right, but this dude was a legend in Suffolk County, so I hope I'm nailing it. He arrived on scene and started to question Ron Jr. in the kitchen. Ron told the detective that he left the house early that morning to go to work at the dealership because, he has the commute, which is fucking trash. And when he came back later that afternoon, he found, and I assume when he says afternoon, he means like around 6, he found the bodies. Ron's explanation of this was that somebody had to have broken into the house and murdered his entire family. And Ron goes on to explain this by saying very specifically and succinctly that a man by the name of Louis Fellini, a local mafia guy, broke into his house and murdered his entire family. And so now, obviously, he's afraid for his life because he has some Soprano-like drama.
For what reason?
We're gonna jump further into this Louis Fellini guy.
I mean, the mom just doesn't show up, like.
Yeah. So the detectives at this point decide that they should take him into protective custody until they could catch this guy. But now Ron is in a police interview at the station, and he's giving more details about this mysterious mafia man and how he's connected to the DeFeos. Ron then goes on, because they're like, well, how do you know it's this guy? What the fuck is the connection? This is what Ron drops. Ron says that Fellini lived with them in their home a couple of years prior. What are you holding in your... Oh, my God.
It's my beer.
He had a beer in his hand, and I'm seeing this light, and I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at? Anyway, so Fellini apparently lived with them in their home a couple of years prior, and because of this, Fellini knew the layout of the property extensively. Okay, that makes sense, but still, I'm not buying it.
But okay.
It gets better.
There's no motive. Yeah.
Wait, it gets better. I mean, to be fair, it was a huge house, and I'm going to discuss more about like how grandiose this house was later on, but it was a big house. But apparently he also knew intimate details about all of the valuables that the DeFeos had in their home. He goes further and says that he was sure that this was the motivation for the crime. I couldn't. When I read this, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You couldn't come up with a better fucking story, dude. You had how many hours to think about it? He
was at the bar drinking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he killed them at 3:30 a.m. the day prior, really, he had 16 hours. So anyway, Fellini knew about gems and cash they had in the basement.
They had gems in the basement?
This story could not be any more 1970s Italian in Long Island if he tried. Like, this dude is writing, like, the prequel to The Sopranos if it happened in Long Island. Come on. So the cops obviously weren't buying it. They weren't 100% sure that it was bullshit, but they were like, this is just really outlandish, and it just doesn't make sense.
Well,
also,
you don't go execute an entire family to
Right.
steal some gems from the basement.
Right,
I mean,
especially
you
if
just
you're
wait till
in the
they
mafia,
leave.
because you don't need to bring heat to the mafia, especially if he lived there and that was actually true and that could be confirmed. But also, why would he do this years later? What if the layout of the house changed? What if they moved things? Like, wouldn't that be something that you do not too long after you move out? I don't know. Just
None of it makes sense. So.
Right. So they didn't believe it, but they were like, we can't completely discount it because,
It's possible.
that's what good cops do. So they're like, all right, we're just going to let him sleep for the night. We're going to continue to search the home just to see if we can either corroborate or completely disprove his story. And oh, Lord, they were able to disprove it really quick. So do you remember what I told you about the gun?
It's a lever action Marlin.
35 caliber. In Ron Jr.'s room was boxes of 35 caliber ammunition hidden that matched the rifle exactly.
Are you kidding me?
No, the rifle actually belongs to Ron Jr. Also.
The actual rifle?
Yep, it was his. So they were told by family and friends that they had guns in the home. So at that point, they were like, we know the weapon came from the home. And then later on that they confirmed that the rifle was his.
Well, I guess he could say that
nobody's going to break into
gun, I guess. If you knew where the gems in the basement were,
most
you know where the
people
gun
that
is.
break into homes to commit robbery aren't there to commit robbery and a violent crime. They're there to commit a robbery and get out.
Right.
If you are there to commit a violent crime, yes, and you're going to bring your own weapon. You're not going to be in the middle of a robbery. Boo! You get surprised, and then you have to, here's a Peloton bike. Let me throw it at somebody. No, you're going to come prepared. Right? Like, let's be serious.
Oh, I'm with you.
I just, it's fucking, I'm glad this dude is dumb. But, like, come on, man. Anyway, so they were told by family and friends that they had a lot of guns in the home. And I'm going to talk more about Ron and guns later. But the cops are like, well, fucking great. We're going to go back to the station where Ron is sleeping. And they're like, dude, come on. We know it's you. Here are your Miranda rights. Get fucked. Ron was like, nope, Louis Fellini, and he's sticking to it. So then this dude changes his story so many times. I have like whiplash. Then he was like, all right. It wasn't me. It's still Louis Fellini. But this guy actually threatened me, right? So he breaks into the house and he threatens me. And so now I'm at his mercy. And I saw him commit the murders because he came here to rob us and he brought me to every room. He grabbed me and brought me to every room. While he's shooting these people, he's also threatening me with a gun, brings me to every room. And
he doesn't do anything while he's watching his family get executed.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, dude, bullshit.
So he's pulling them from room to room. And he watches him kill them. And then he brings me to Brooklyn to toss the gun. Where does he work? Brooklyn.
Where Brooklyn at?
Why is this mafia man bringing him to Brooklyn to drop the gun? Right? So to me, that's just, you work in Brooklyn, so it makes sense that you're dropping the shit off in Brooklyn. Why would this guy bring it to Brooklyn?
I have a question.
What?
Was that firearm, so it wasn't recovered in the house then?
I'm going to get into that.
It was recovered. Was it recovered at all?
We're going to talk. Yep. We're on the precipice.
Oh, okay.
Don't you worry.
I mean, if we're on the precipice, then please.
Not gonna leave you
please
guys
proceed.
hanging. Daniel, shut up, bro.
We're on the razor's edge.
He's so fucking annoying. You guys have no idea the shit that I have to live with. If any of you want to take me in, please send us an email because, Lord, I am down to be a refugee.
It's like adopting a dog that
whatever
turns out to be violent, and you're like, shit, I don't know what to do with it.
Have fun.
Okay,
all right.
Have
anyway,
fun.
So eventually Ron just gave up and yelled. Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast. Like, that is just such a fucking bullshit and I can't. That's what you have to say about murdering your entire family? Like, I can understand that he had rage against his dad for being abusive. Absolutely not an excuse to kill him, right? Like, none whatsoever. But I can see where that rage comes from, even though he shouldn't have fucking killed him.
You could understand.
Yes,
Right.
It's fucked, but I can understand. and he should go to jail for it. But why your younger siblings, man? Like, they're babies and they have nothing to do with it. Your mom that got abused, like, it's just all so messed up. And it's like, even though his dad was abusive and that's not okay, like, I'm going to get into it later, but his parents really try, and it doesn't negate the fact that his dad did bad things, but you could tell there was still love there. Like, they try to placate him even though he's struggling. So it's just like, it's just such a callous way to talk about the fact that you just killed your entire family. 9 and 12 and 13. It's just, I don't know. People scare me. This case, we're going to talk about ghosts. I'm telling you right now, people scare me more than fucking ghosts. Like, people are fucking horrifying. That's what we should really be scared of, not some fucking ghost. Anyway, so he yelled that. He was officially arrested on November 14th of 1974. And this is what we know to be, like, the most true in terms of, like, sequence of events. So around 3:30 a.m., he loads his rifle, walks up the stairs and into his parents' bedroom, and he kills his mother and father, shooting them both twice at close range in their side and back. He then walked across the hallway, so you guys aren't going to be able to see it, but, like, his parents' bedroom is here, and then, like, this is the hall, and, like, down here is his 13-year-old sister, Allison, and he shot her one time. And then right here, like, right up above it, if you're looking at, like, a diagram, her bedroom is, like, right parallel to the adjacent bedroom where his two brothers were, Mark, 12, and John, 9. I've read a couple of different accounts on this. It is confirmed that the two sisters woke up. I've read this in a few different pieces. So there's a lot of bullshit surrounding this case is all I'm going to say. This is what I've seen to be the most true because I've seen it from the most sources.
Well, this case got like a shitload of attention.
We're going to talk about it. Yeah. So it's
and the movie
it's pretty
and
much
all that shit. So
assumed that his two sisters woke up. Actually, the cops were able to confirm that. Whether this dialogue between him and one of his sisters happened or not, I've seen it in a lot of sources, but I cannot confirm 100%, so take it as you will. But lastly, he goes up to the third floor where Dawn, his sister, 18, was. She was awake and she apparently asks what's wrong, and he tells her that everything is fine, go back to bed. That's based on his account. All of the victims were found face down, which is really strange. All of them. Face down in the same position. They weren't drugged. There was no evidence of Ron giving them sedatives. He then cleaned himself up. He tossed the weapon over a dock in Amityville. He threw the dirty clothes and other evidence into a sewer in Brooklyn. And then he went to work. Louis Fellini was out of state during the crimes.
Oh, he was on other mafia business, huh?
Yep, he was doing other murders for people, apparently. I don't know.
Some other concrete shoes, huh?
Imagine being a guy that, like, had nothing to do with a heinous murder, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, did you kill these 6 people? Like, God, I'm glad he had an alibi, because imagine if he was just, like, at home. Maybe he lived alone.
Is this guy actually affiliated or not?
I have no idea at all. The only thing I know for sure is that the police checked. He was out of state and he had absolutely nothing to do with it. Like, nothing. Was not involved at all.
It's pretty shitty.
I'm going to say that he probably wasn't in the mafia. And even if he was, it doesn't matter. This isn't his business. He didn't kill 6 fucking people. This asshole did. So, you know, it's kind of shitty.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that they're all face down is kind of...
We're going to talk into actually about that.
I mean, that's basically like, that's like 6 executions.
We're going to talk about that right now.
What that
so,
is. Maybe the first 2, the parents were probably legitimately asleep. There's no fucking way that you're blasting off a rifle in a house.
So
and
let me,
people
I'm going to cut you
up.
off. Please let me, we're going to talk about that right now. So let me just throw some knowledge at you. So nobody heard anything. Not even anybody in the neighborhood. And the houses are not far apart from each other. The only thing that was heard was a boy in the neighborhood heard a dog barking. The weapon had no silencer at all. And he fired 9 shots.
Right, but that doesn't surprise me. They didn't wake the neighbors up. But I mean, I'm saying the people in the house definitely woke up.
That's another thing. So nobody tried to run. Nobody tried to escape. Nobody tried to hide. They weren't drugged. Ron did say that he drugged them during one interrogation because he changed his story like 100 times. Cops thought it was really weird that you know, And they were able to surmise that the girls did wake up, and they thought that maybe they just tried to lay down and pretend to be asleep out of fear. But I don't know. This is the weird anomaly of the case. I mean, I am a light sleeper. When I say light sleeper, I mean, I sleep with a sound machine. If I hear a pin drop next to me, I am fucking up and ready to go. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
God forbid if I roll over.
If I hear a rifle, I mean, Allison had 4 shots. I hate saying it like that. It sounds so callous, but she did. That probably didn't give her a lot of time, to be honest, because she was right there. But Dawn upstairs, she was up a floor. To me,
but here's the thing, right?
And she was they were able to determine she was awake.
Right, but here's the thing, right? He started on the lower floor.
I know, but still.
You have to go through that. So there's nowhere to run. You can't. There's nowhere to run.
I know. It's just still weird that, like, she was just in her bed. I don't know. I wasn't there, and I can't imagine what she went through. And and I'm not saying she did the wrong thing, right? Because what is the right thing in that situation? It's a strange thing to me, right? Like, it's just, it's weird. Like, it doesn't make sense.
So how did they, do you know
what?
How the police concluded that she woke up then, if she was in bed?
I don't know, to be honest.
Like, it's one thing if they're out of bed, then you can assume they got up, right?
I don't know. The only thing I know, though, and I read it in a couple of different sources, is that the police were able to determine that the 2 girls were awake when it happened.
But she was killed in bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
They think that they maybe just laid there in fear. I don't know. So the trial began on October 14th, 1975, so almost a year later in Suffolk County. And Ron obviously tried to use insanity as a defense. He was diagnosed with dissociative disorder. And I mean, we all know that this dude has mental health issues. And it's sad. Like, his life was tragic and we can all sympathize. But, like, there's no excuse to commit murder, especially when your parents are taking you to a psychologist and you have resources, you know? It's just...
Well, also, nobody else in the house decided to go kill everybody. I mean,
right. Yeah,
you know?
No, I mean,
like,
we can feel bad that he had mental health issues, but that's never an excuse to commit murder, and you should obviously be in jail for the rest of your life. So the defense hired psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Schwartz, and he was the one that gave him that, but the prosecution, they had Dr. Harold Solan, I don't know. He said that, yeah, this dude used heroin, LSD. He had antisocial personality disorder, but he was completely aware of his actions during the murders. So, like, this, I don't know what happened, I was dissociated, is bullshit. They did bring up a lot of his past during the trial, which I think is fair game. You know, it's important to see the history. And they brought up how he was bullied, his drug use. So Ron's uncle, his mother's brother, Michael Briganti, we're going to talk about him again later, actually testified that he witnessed Ron Sr. abusing Ron on several different occasions, one of which when he was barely 2 years old. And he said, quote, "We were all sitting down in the basement watching TV and I don't know, the boy did something. All of a sudden he stood up. The father just pushed the boy this way into the wall. The boy banged his head, part of his shoulder or something." It was also brought up, though, which I thought was interesting during trial, that as he was bullied more and more when he was a child, you know, for his weight and stuff, that he actually ended up becoming more introverted and antisocial. And then this kind of eventually morphed into him becoming very aggressive against many people, including his father. So eventually Ron became known to have this very volatile temper, and this was something that several people around his town had noticed. And on a hunting trip that he had with his friend testified that he actually threatened him with his rifle. And then there was another incident that was brought up in court that during a fight between Ron's parents, he tried to shoot his dad with a shotgun. Like, he pointed it at him, aimed it, pulled the trigger, but the gun malfunctioned. Like, he tried to kill his dad. That, to me, is attempted murder.
The gun malfunctioned?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but that was in court. Like, people testified to that.
All right. So
that's crazy. I mean, to me, that's attempted murder.
So it was loaded.
Yes.
Round in the chamber.
I don't know. I don't know the exact details, but it happened in court that people that witnessed this testified that he pointed the gun, aimed it at his dad, and pulled the trigger.
Well, yeah, I mean, but if you're trying to scare somebody, you could drop the hammer on a on a no.
All right, I don't
trigger.
give a fuck.
No, I know. I'm not saying, dude. This is some crazy fucked up shit.
To me, that doesn't change the fucking severity. That is some fucked up, depraved shit. And I wish that the parents saw that as a big warning sign. But they loved him a lot.
Well, I was gonna say, how did they just?
They loved him a lot.
This is a lot of shit.
They loved him a lot, man. It makes me sad. They loved him a lot. So obviously, so I'm gonna go back to when he was 17. Ron's drug use was intense, but because his parents had money, he obviously relied heavily on that money to fuel it. The teachers, right before he got expelled, noticed during this time that he would get very aggressive and violent, also towards his peers, which is what led to him getting expelled from school. And it was the consensus that the DeFeos unfortunately turned a blind eye to his issues, and they did, even though it wasn't right, it's still sad to me because I can see where their heart was. They did what they could to please him. They tried to make him happy and buy him gifts and stuff. So it just, I don't know, it makes me sad because they tried, to do what they could, and they just weren't equipped and didn't know how to deal with it. So it makes me sad. So at 18, he gets the job at the local dealership, even though he couldn't pass the background check. I think maybe they thought that him having structure and a job would help him. It's just, I don't know. It makes me sad. Ron Jr. then started spending his money that he earned on drugs and guns. Great combination. Marca. In September of 1974, so this is right before the murders, he actually was arrested for stealing a motor from a dock and fleeing on his family's boat. And then, briefly after, he staged a robbery with his coworker, and they ended up getting away with $19,000 from the family dealership. Like, they got away with it. But
that's a pretty good haul. Yeah. Not gonna lie.
But Ron Sr. suspected that something...
Wait, so they robbed his own family?
They staged a robbery, and then Ron just took $19,000 from the dealership because he worked there. But they ended up making it look like a robbery so that it wouldn't rouse suspicion. But his dad kind of felt like something was up, and he started asking him about it, like just trying to be like, hey, like, what's going on? Because he knew. It's
an inside job. I mean, you get that kind of money, you know where that money is.
Ron threatened his dad's life, so he let it go. It's just so tough. Like, it's easy for us to say, well, they should have done something about it, but it's like, we don't have children, and it's like...
Well, you just cut them off.
I don't know. I feel...
If I ever threatened to kill my father would be like, get the fuck out of here. Don't ever fucking talk to me again. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but like, your mom would be like, no, I love you. And I get it because she's so nice and she loves you so much. And that's why, like, I feel bad for these people because I can't imagine how hard it is as a parent to be on that. It's like, on one side, your kid's being a dick, but you also love them and you want to do anything for them. That's probably such a hard balance. Like, what's the right move? You know what I mean? Like, because you could be tough, but maybe if you're too tough, then they just fucking get themselves killed. And if you're too nice, then they, I don't know. I know they didn't make the best decisions, but my heart bleeds for them because it's obvious that they loved him and they wanted to help him. They tried to get him help, but unfortunately there was a little bit of enabling, but I don't know. It just makes me sad because they tried. They were good parents, even though they made some mistakes. I don't know. I just feel sad for them. So many red flags, though. I wish. But I also feel like when you love somebody, though, you don't see them as much. It's easy for us as an outsider, But they didn't see them.
Well, I think you see them. It's just easier to ignore them.
I feel bad for them.
You know what I mean?
I feel bad for Louise and Ron Sr. Anyway, on November 21st, 1975, DeFeo was found guilty, thank God, on 6 counts of second-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison. A clear motive was never established, but I think we can all take a lucky guess and say it was fueled by his substance use challenges, which I wish he got help for it sooner. But then also...
Well, there might be be trauma involved. I mean, you said there was abuse.
I know.
That could be related to that, too.
I wish that he was able to get help and didn't refuse it. So he was sentenced on December 4th of 1975 by Judge Thomas Stark. Reminds me of Tony Stark, Iron Man. To 6 sentences of 25 years to life. During sentencing, the judge stated that DeFeo's crimes were, quote, the most heinous murders committed in Suffolk County since its founding. And he was held at the Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York, although I think he might have transferred because I read about another place, but it's relevant. That's where he was sent after that. In spite of this, Ron continued to advocate hard fucking court for his innocence. Like, just, it's great. You ready?
I mean, you got to commit, right?
Yes. But typically, like, so I just watched, if you like shows like this while you're listening to a true crime podcast. So I Am a Killer season 3 just came out on Netflix. Some of these people admit to it. Some of them are like, nah. Like, there was one episode where there were 3 different dudes. One dude chose to not participate. The other dude hardcore stuck to his story for like 17 years. Didn't change it, didn't falter. Makes sense. Either he's a great liar or he's innocent. This dude, we're going to get into it right now, threw out so many different theories as to why he's innocent that I just...
Well, this is where all the possession shit comes from, right?
Not yet. We're going to go through normal shit first. This dude changes his story like 100 times before getting into that. It's great.
I feel like if you're going to throw that Hail Mary, like it should be your...
From the get-go.
Should be your number one.
Literally.
I mean, at the end, it just makes you look like an idiot.
Fun fact, we're going to talk about this because we're from Connecticut. Connecticut was the first state to use possession and an exorcism in court. So we're going to cover that next.
Let me jot that down real quick.
Really excited. I tell you this all the time. He's probably heard that line at least 7,000 times. So we're going to get into what I like to call conspiracy theories, a.k.a. Ron professing his innocence, but also researching this case was really hard because there's so much bullshit out there. I'm not saying that this author is full of shit because I'm sure that this guy has way more information than I do. What I'm saying is that I don't believe that Ron is innocent, and this author does, and he believes his stories. So this guy's name is Rick Osuna. He wrote The Night the DeFeos Died, which I wanted to read but didn't read. And looking back, once I did more research on his website, I don't think that I needed to read it. So at first, the first theory after this Louis Fellini guy, Ron was like, just kidding. I wasn't the only murderer. There was another murderer there. And then he tried to say that it was one of his family members. His sister, Dawn. His eldest sister, Dawn, the 18-year-old. He tried to say that she did it. Tried to put the whole thing.
And then what? He wrestled the gun from her and shot her with the same gun?
How fucked is this, right? Like, not only did you murder her and your entire family, but now you're trying to pawn it on her, and she's dead. So I'm going to backtrack a bit. Michael Briganti. Oh, no. This is her father. Right. So there's a junior and a senior. So Michael Briganti Jr., the uncle, was at trial. He was the one that testified that he saw him get violent at age 2. This is her father, Michael Briganti Sr. So Louise's father, the mother's father. He hired a man named Herman Race, who was a former NYPD detective, to investigate the murders because he didn't think that Ron did it on his own. So he ended up testifying at trial, and he confirmed the abuse, but he also said on the stand that he didn't think that Ron committed these crimes alone. So apparently, according to this author, this guy that they hired, Herman Race, discovered evidence that proved that there were at least 2 guns used and multiple gunmen.
So what was the evidence?
I'm going to get into that. That's why I said allegedly. Ron Jr.
Did you say allegedly?
Apparently. I meant to say allegedly. I said apparently. Allegedly, apparently, not proven. I'm going to just, none of this is proven and confirmed. This is all what I titled this heading Conspiracy Theories. So we're going to leave it at that.
Conspicuously.
Yes. No, it's in like heading 3. So it's like in bold. So definitely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, conspicuously. I thought you said inconspicuously. I'm fucking tired. You're right. Conspicuously.
I'm just fucking with you.
Anyway, so apparently he discovered evidence that there were at least 2 gunmen and multiple guns used. So Ron had allegedly confessed to this author during a meeting on November 30th of 2000 that Dawn did it. And there was also a friend there. So 3 people. And apparently Ron, which we all know this actually happened, was tired of his dad's abuse, as was Dawn, which is understandable. That's relatable. None of the rest is. Dawn was angry because her father wouldn't let her move to Florida with her boyfriend. I'm going to circle back to this because that's actually fact. That's actually fact. So the way they decide to cope with this is let's get really high, really drunk, really fucked up. In the process of this, hanging out in the basement of the DeFeo home, Don's like, hey, big bro, I'm going to need you to just kill our parents. According to Ron, he was like, all right, I'll bite. I'll kill our parents.
You know, this is reminiscent of like a lot of my sibling powwows when we were younger too, you know, plotting to kill our parents.
Kirsty would have none of this. Maybe you and David, but Kirsty would have none of this. She is a smart, normal person. She would not bite. Maybe David.
She's the only normal one.
You and David are lunatics, so maybe.
No, nobody talks about this shit.
I know. We're just being facetious. Dan's parents are great, especially his mom. His mom is a legit saint and an angel.
Amen.
She's great. But anyway, so she was like, hey, kill our parents. And he was like, all right, which I can understand the train of thought. It's fucked up and wrong, but I get it. This dude has issues and his dad's abusive. I don't know why he has to bring the mom into it, though. So he agrees to it. They were supposed to bring their siblings, so everybody except for Dawn, to the grandparents' house, which is in Brooklyn, where the the car dealership is. But Dawn ended up going fucking DEFCON 75 and just shot all of them because she didn't want any witnesses. So he went up to Dawn's bedroom all stressed out about this. And this is what doesn't make sense because Dawn's bedroom was all the way up and she was the last person shot. So he was mortified because, oh, she just killed everybody. Then I walked all the way up to her bedroom, which is away from the other bedrooms, wrestled her for the gun, slammed her against the bed, which knocked her unconscious, and then he shot her in the head. Totally believable and plausible.
Basically,
and
he's
somehow
a hero.
She landed face down in the bed, and it looked like she was sleeping face down like everybody else.
Yeah, it's a very convincing story.
Hundo P. So she did actually have a boyfriend in Florida, and this is fucking disgusting. Like, I got pissed when I read this. She was 18. Her boyfriend in Florida was 33. If you're a 33-year-old man and you are dating an 18-year-old, please stop listening to my podcast because I don't want you as a fan, respectfully. That's some fucking nasty grooming shit.
I mean, I thought you were going to throw out something like her boyfriend was 12 or something, but okay.
That would be even worse. No, it's just, I don't know, man. I don't want, it's all nasty. It's all fucked up. Don't fucking do it. I don't know when she turned 18, but why is a 33-year-old? Man, I'm not even 33 yet. Thank God. I could never date an 18-year-old. That's younger than both of my siblings. They are babies to me. Just stop. Just stop doing this. So I'm not going to lie. I have to side with the parents. I'm not going to want my 18-year-old daughter to move.
17, right?
I don't know. So she was 18 at the time of her death. I could not find any information on when they started dating.
Oh, when they started. All right, yeah.
Even if she was almost turning 19, I'm sorry. That is grooming and that's fucking gross, man. That's just stop. No business. 18 is a child. So I have to agree with her parents. Like, I would say, fuck no. Are you kidding? Do something productive with your life. Don't, no. So she was pissed about this. So her boyfriend ended up signing a sworn affidavit in Florida that this author uses. And he has an image of it on his site. But I don't understand how this proves that Dawn was involved, right? Because the affidavit only says, hey, I'm a creepy 33-year-old trying to get my 18-year-old girlfriend to come to Florida. She uses drugs and she uses her brother. That's like literally it. I read the entire image that was on the thing. It in no way talks about wanting to kill the parents. Like, so I don't understand the relevance and the significance and how this proves that Dawn was involved, other than saying, yeah, she had an older boyfriend in Florida and like the parents didn't approve and she took advantage of her brother. That's all it says, literally. So how does that prove that she was involved?
Right, but it's not any less of a motive than, hey, he did drugs and was strung out.
That is a That is what do you mean that's a strong motive?
Okay, but people
when you
have
combine
but children have killed their parents for that exact reason that you just mentioned. And obviously people kill people over drugs, but
children. Every case I've ever heard of like family annihilators, I think the oldest one I ever heard of was like 15. And I'm sure there's other ones out there, but like to me, the motive of a man who had a history of mental health challenges and then substance use, who like snapped and killed his parents, makes a lot of sense.
Oh, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm on the same page as you.
Doesn't make sense. And then when you combine it, and this affidavit says nothing, right? And then when you combine it with, oh, we struggled for the gun and I shot her in the head, and she somehow, like, there was no.
Oh, no. I'm with you. His recollection of that, his explanation is totally bogus. But I mean, just in terms of the motive itself.
I also saw crime scene photos. I'm not going to post them because I didn't see them on purpose, and I would like to unsee them. And I also think that sometimes those things don't need to be on the internet. But there was zero evidence of a struggle in that room. Like, none whatsoever. So, and also she was 18. She was of legal age. These kids that kill their parents because they're in love, they're not of age. They're stuck in their parents' house. That doesn't make it any more right because it's just fucked completely. But like, she could have left, I don't know.
I'm not saying that I think this is what happened. I'm just saying that there is some credibility there. That's all that I'm saying. And I'm not saying that's what happened or that I think that happened.
But I respectfully.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. That's all I do on this podcast.
I fucking disagree. But I do it respectfully.
Well, that's in your nature.
But God damn it, this is bullshit, and I'm tired of this guy grasping at straws. Rick Asuna. So then, lastly, there was a photo. I kid you not. If you're looking at a piece of paper, 1/32 of a picture. It's like obviously this dude got a copy of the lab report somehow, and chose to crop everything. This is what I was asking you about yesterday. He had a small snippet from a lab report that says, quote, powder particles from victim, end quote, and says that means that she may have shot the gun. They were all fucking shot at fucking close range. It is possible when someone is shot from very close range, right? And I Googled this, that there can be some of that powder shit.
Powder residue?
Yeah. And the rest of the thing is cropped. That's all it says.
Well, I suppose it's relevant where it was located on her.
Guess what? It doesn't say because it's cropped. And the only thing you can see is, quote, powder particles from victim. That's it.
Right. That doesn't mean shit.
Exactly. So
I mean, you could probably say that for almost everybody in that house.
I'm not done, right? Ready? It gets better.
Well, then proceed, please.
This guy keeps going. So does Ron. So Ron comes up with another story as to why he didn't do it. He moves on from Dawn, right? I take it back. Dawn didn't do it. I wasn't even there. And this guy bites. I'm so glad. I tried to have Dan spent like an hour trying to find me this ebook, like a copy I could rent or buy. Couldn't find it. It's only like paper copy, and I just didn't have the time to like go to a store and get it. And I'm so glad. Respectfully, I hope that this author is living his best life and doing well. But respectfully, I'm glad I didn't read it because it's obvious. The dog's freaking out right now in his sleep. It's obvious that he just wants to bite whatever Ron says. So then Ron says, wasn't even there. Dawn didn't do it. I had a wife at the time named Geraldine. I swear to God, you can't make this up.
Geraldine?
Yep.
Okay.
Geraldine. And I couldn't have committed the murders because I was living with Geraldine at the time in New Jersey. But guess what? Geraldine, his alleged wife, was married to and living with someone else at this time.
And I'm assuming they were never actually married.
No.
And he didn't think that, people would figure that out.
I don't know, man. But there's a giant conspiracy theory. This guy has a whole website and a book where Geraldine exists and that people are trying to cover it up. I don't have enough aluminum foil in the tri-state area to get down with this.
Well, clearly you don't shop at Costco.
So then, when that didn't work, right? Then, where do we get to?
Oh, the ghost stories.
We can all relate to this. A demon made me do it. So Ron...
Yeah, that's my go-to every time I get in trouble.
Literally. There is definitely a demon in me, though, for real. Just kidding.
Yeah, just a different kind.
Whatever, Daniel. I am an angel. So Ron then was like, you know what? I was in the basement of the house. This whole basement thing comes into play with the whole Amityville horror shit later. Like, oh, the basement, 3 a.m. Which it really did happen around 3 a.m., but still. I was in the house and a demonic figure appeared. This demonic figure handed me my .35 caliber Marlin rifle. Handed it to me and forced me to kill my entire family.
I mean, I'm just saying right now that if ghosts are real, I want one to have an interaction with me.
Please don't wish
because that is the only way that I'll ever believe any of this shit.
Do not wish that on us. Because
I said me.
If a ghost interacts with you, I live here. No, I do not wish that shit.
I'm just saying, spirits.
No. Stop.
If you're
I swear to God. Stop. Do not. No. I don't know what I believe in, but I know I don't think I believe in anything because I believe in science. But I know that I don't want to test that theory. I don't want to test that theory.
Well, I offer myself as tribute.
I don't want to fuck around and find out. How about that? I don't want to fuck around and find out.
How about that?
Oh shit! What did I just do? I added a paragraph. Sorry guys, hold on. So now we're gonna get into George and Kathy Lutz. So the murders happened in November of 1974. We're going to skip to December of 1975. So a little bit over a year after the murders happened. George and Kathy Lutz bought the house for $80,000. I did the math, guys. I didn't. Google did. This is $440,559 today. So the Lutzes came across an ad for the property, advertising its 6 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, a finished basement, 2-car garage, heated pool, and a boathouse. On the water,
It's a sick boathouse. I saw the pictures of that.
Well, it's a beautiful house. And and that's also, even today, given inflation, a fucking bargain. I would sell my soul, honestly. That's just, to have a property on the water with a boathouse. Woo. So, they were newlyweds. They had 3 kids from a previous marriage. I'm not sure which kid belonged to who. I didn't want to dive into it too much. They both owned houses separately, but they wanted to buy one house together to kind of merge and start their own family together. They were both aware of the murders in the home, so it was disclosed to them by the realtor. They moved in on December 18th and had the local cleric, Father Mancuso, come by the same day to bless the house. A lot of this is bullshit. I mean, factual information. I got this information from a book called The Amityville Horror, written by Jay Anson, who was paid by the Lutzes to write this story. So it's
gotta be true.
I'm not going to tell you what I think about it. That's it.
No, it's definitely true.
Do your own research. According to Father Mancuso, he arrived at the Lutzes around 1:30 that same afternoon, like the day that they were going to move in. He had known them previously, he had a previous encounter, and he felt uneasy. As he began the blessing, when he flicked his first little holy water splash, he heard a loud and masculine voice yell, "Get out!" But he decided to finish the ritual because he's a fucking G. But he didn't tell the Lutzes.
Fearless man of God.
Honestly, though, I'm not here to judge him. Because I would not want to be a priest in a house where everybody just got murdered. That's unsettling.
If this even actually really happened.
Yes.
The guy was really there?
Yes.
All
yes.
Right.
And there were other people there too, and I'll get into it. Like, there were police. The police ended up there at certain points too, so I'm not saying that weird shit.
Got to build the credibility.
I'm not. Well, listen, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying weird shit didn't happen. What I'm saying is this didn't happen, right? You know? Everything I'm about to read didn't happen. But this guy...
You weren't there. Maybe the ghost yelled at him.
No. I'm about to discredit the Lutzes hardcore. please don't. I'm scared to say that because they sue a lot of people.
Oh,
I am going by factual information from the internet. So.
Oh, well, it must be true if it's on the internet.
I confirmed it from multiple sources. That wasn't a book written by a dude that the Lutzes hired to write their life story.
Well, then send it.
I consider that to be credible. So the Lutzes allegedly started to experience strange incidences that same day when they heard their little pupper, Harry. I love that. I love when people name their dogs people names, yelping and howling outside. So George ran out to find Harry choking on his chain. It seemed to get like wrapped up on the top part of the fence, and then the dog was accidentally choking himself out. So he unraveled it. A few nights following the incident, George heard loud banging on the door. So every single night, he woke up at exactly 3:15 a.m. I'm going to get a little bit into the significance of 3 a.m. Ron DeFeo Jr. did kill his family at that hour. What is weird about 3:15 a.m. is it's known as the witching hour. So according to people that believe in Christianity, they think that Christ died around that time, 3 p.m., sorry. So the inverse of that, like 3 a.m.-ish, is a witching hour. It's the inverse of when Christ died on the cross for our sins. So people believe it to be a demonic and not good time.
Well, isn't it also because it's mocking like the Holy Trinity, like 3, so...
Yes, I've heard that. But yes, I think that might be in addition, but mainly because it's the inverse of when they believe that Christ died on the cross for our sins. So that makes sense in my brain. I get that. And it is kind of creepy. I'm not going to lie. It's a weird coincidence that the murders did happen at that time. But according to the Lutzes, there's no way somebody woke up every day at 3:15 a.m.
I mean, it's true if you set your alarm clock for that time.
Does the demon have an alarm clock? Come on. Anyway. So, at first he just heard loud banging on the door, then it eventually got closer. Eventually he heard stuff around his room. Whatever. They experienced sensations of being touched or grabbed. Fuck that shit. I'm telling you right now, I would be out. The first second that I feel that and there's nothing there, I am fucking out. Coda, let's go. Taking my dog, we're out. They couldn't get the house warm, even though it was, December. They kept a fire burning consistently in the fireplace and the house was just fucking freezing cold. They experienced weird and unidentifiable smells. From what I read, a lot of times it was like perfumes and colognes. I was like, okay, that's like not terrible. I'd be freaked out, but it's better than like, the opposite. The fourth bedroom, the one on the second floor, would have, at one point there were like all of these flies clung to it. If you saw the movie, it's a great scene. It's creepy as fuck. You could just see all these black flies just covering the entire, it's like a sheet. Fucking weird. 28 days later, and this did actually happen, they fled their home and they left everything behind. They only brought a change of clothes. And they said that it was because they were being terrorized in the house by evil spirits. So the Lutzes did end up actually contacting the police, a psychic research group, and local priests. And it's been reported, I can't confirm it, but I saw it on a couple of different sources, that 2 emissaries, those are people that like go on a mission, from the Vatican came to their aid and told them to leave. I saw that in a few different sources. So I don't know. Maybe it happened, maybe not. But I do know what I said previously about the police and the psychic research groups and the priest. So the book that I was talking about, this book that I'm referring to, they ended up hiring Jay Anson to write the Amityville Horror about their, quote, air quotes, experiences, which ended up being a bestseller and sold over 3 million copies. So this is why I'm reluctant to believe. It's not that I am saying that ghosts don't exist. I believe in science, so I need to see something. I need tangible evidence.
I know, that's why I'm saying it.
What makes
if there's
it
a
harder,
ghost here.
Please stop saying that. I don't want to test
Come
it.
on.
What makes it hard for me is when people, and you know what? I'm just going to pocket it because we're going to get into the Lutz's life. Then they entered into an agreement with, I did some fucking hardcore digging, with Professional Films, Inc. and granted them the rights to make a movie based on the book, use their name, and publicize the film. So that's the Amityville Horror, the original. But then the Lutzes went on a mega campaign that included TV appearances, newspaper, and radio interviews. They traveled abroad and they promoted the book themselves. But then, I'm not done. They went on to say that they had more unique events that followed them and happened to them after they left. They went bankrupt. LOL. I wrote LOL in caps. They knew this was going to happen before they bought the house. So George took over the family business and it was not doing well. And so my theory is, take it with a grain of salt, they knew that this house was for sale, that they were going to get it for a deal, and they wanted to monetize on it to get themselves out. And you know what? If that's the fucking case, I'm not judging them. Good for them. They are smart as fuck. I'm not here to judge them. That is brilliant, honestly. Like, that is a genius. But
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I would be down for that.
No, they are fucking, and I'm not here to shit on them. They're smart as fuck. If that's what they did, then good for them, man. Genius. There's nothing wrong with that. All I'm saying is I don't believe they were actually haunted, because their financial problems started before. But you know what? That is genius. We should do that. We should find like a fucking haunted place, buy it, and then genius. So anyway, so they went bankrupt. Then they tried to sue Dino De Laurentiis of Orion Productions over Amityville 2, The Possession, and then Amityville 3D, laugh my ass off, because it, quote, misled the public into thinking they were sequels to their story. Remember how they said that they wanted to cover their own unique experiences following it? So they said that diluted it, and it diluted the value of any sequel they were planning, which collapsed, by the way. They never did anything with that.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Also, there's a lot of shit about their financial problems leading up to when they leave the house. And again, his business was not doing well when he took it over, and they were actually currently under investigation with the IRS when they decided to buy the house. So that, to me, I think it was just financial gain. And if so, I'm not judging them. Good for them. That's fucking genius. What a way to monetize. Right?
I mean, yeah, they did it all right. They did the PR, the publicity tour. All that
that's
stuff.
not illegal. Good for them.
No, absolutely not.
Good for them.
I would do that.
I'm not here to shit on them.
That's why I'm saying a ghost should come here right now and haunt us, and then we can write about it.
If
and
any of them are still alive, please don't sue me. I honestly applaud you. You are fucking smart as shit, man.
I'm just saying, we could have a ghost encounter right now and flee the house, and then like write a book about it, and we'd be great. We'd be Gucci, man.
They didn't write a book. They hired somebody to write a book.
Okay, well, I'll hire somebody to ghost write a book.
Do you know who they got involved? They're from Connecticut.
You totally missed my pun.
I got it.
You're talking about the Warrens. I know.
Ed and Lorraine Warren, who, I'm not going to lie, and I don't care what your opinion is.
Bunch of hacks.
Stop. I met Lorraine Warren. I really liked her. They both passed, so be nice. I don't know. She was really neat. So she went to do a tour and speak at one of the colleges I went to. She was a really nice person. She was down to earth. I don't know. I liked her.
Well, everybody knows if they're nice, they're not full of shit.
But I don't believe what happened here. So Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated the home after being invited by the Lutzes after they left. George wouldn't return, so he met them at a local pizza shop. And according to one of the books I read, all of these are sourced in the show notes. The Warrens said, I'm not going to be able to say this. Shinnecock Indians had an enclosure on the property where the boathouse is, and this is where they put anybody that was insane, sick, and or dying. Additionally, and I dug for this shit. I mean, I fucking spent like 2 hours, and I can confirm that it's not a thing. There's a man named John Ketchum, like Ash Ketchum from Pokemon, love it, who was kicked out of Salem for witch practices, and that there's a headless statue of him in Amityville. So I spent hours digging through statues in Amityville. I found 2 that were headless. The only one that was maybe relevant ended up being an angel in a local cemetery. Not him. So Ketchum goes to Amityville and builds a cottage on the property, saying this is where he wants to be buried because he was annexed out of Salem for witch practices. There's a lot of holes with this. I searched all over and I found records of multiple John Ketchums. The closest one that I could find was Colonel John Ketchum, who existed after the Salem witch trials, which occurred like in the late 1600s. This guy lived from 1782 to 1865, and he lived in Indiana. That's it. He didn't come anywhere over by us. But they claimed this man was annexed, blah, blah, blah. After John Ketchum died on the Amityville property, allegedly, the people that brought the property had experienced weird things, and they ended up moving his cabin off the property a few blocks away. And according to Ed and Lorraine Warren, this is kind of where the evil spirits are coming from, and Ron Jr. knew this, and he did drugs and conducted witchcraft and kind of like summoned them while he was there.
I mean, it sounds like they might have been doing LSD and amphetamines.
I mean, honestly, if you're doing LSD, I'm not going to lie, you might be doing I don't know. But was there actually a John Ketchum there? I can tell you definitively. I spent a lot of time. That man did not exist there. So, where did the demons come from? We're going to jump to the aftermath and today. So, as you know, DeFeo advocated for his innocence. He ended up filing several appeals and requests for parole, but they were, thank God, all denied. In 1990...
I don't know why. They're totally believable.
So I read through one of his court petitions, and it was, like, fucking exhausting. This guy tried to say that everybody did him wrong. He tried to say that he didn't get his Miranda rights read, even though I know he did, because I read about it from, like, 75 different sources. But in 1990, he petitioned the court claiming ineffective counsel, which is great, stating that his attorney at the time, William Weber, who I think did a good job based on what I've read, honestly, prevented him from presenting the true facts to the court and forced him to present the insanity defense. So he's saying
he wouldn't let him roll with the ghost story right off the rip.
Forced him to to say that he was insane. And apparently he coerced witnesses to lie under oath to support this defense. He claimed Weber was motivated by money from movie and book rights. So this guy ended up, at one point in time, him and other attorneys were going to write about something, but then they ended up not doing it. So they didn't monetize from it at all.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's some ethical issues there on their end.
So on March 12th of 2021, Ronald DeFeo Jr. died at the age of 69. Nice. At the Albany Medical Center. It's weird. I'm not going to lie. His official cause of death is still not released to the public. That I thought was weird. Normally, even in cases of like people that die in prison, they will say this person was fucking shanked. Like it's been over a year and you cannot find it. And I combed the internet. It's fucking weird. I don't know why. I have zero theory, but it's fucking bizarre, no?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't publicly announce that it was due to supernatural causes. Come on.
All right, Daniel. I'm not saying that it was due to supernatural causes, but it's weird that it wasn't announced. That is fucking weird.
It's probably classified like the aliens. Come on.
That's not what I'm implying at all. It's just weird, right? Like, they always announce a cause of death. It's weird. Maybe it was a heart attack. Why not just say it? It's fucking weird.
I don't know. I don't know how, I mean, are all inmates who die of natural causes, are their causes of death released to the public? I don't know. I mean, is that a HIPAA thing? I don't know. That might be protected.
Oh, I mean, I can't speak for every inmate, but a lot of cases that I've read about, I've never come across a case where an inmate dies in prison and you don't know their cause of death. Look at Whitey Bulger. We're going to talk about him at some point. He's like a fucking notorious bastard.
That dude got shanked. So, I mean,
oh, you knew that. I am impressed that you knew who that was. Holy fuck.
You're impressed that I knew who Whitey Bulger was?
Yeah.
I used to live in Boston. What are you talking about?
I used to live in Boston. Anyway, most of the time you find out. And what I think is especially weird is because at first I was like, maybe just because of the notoriety of the case, but like those are the cases that I can think of first. It's whether they died of natural causes. It's you fucking know. It's just weird. I don't know. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy
It's
theory.
a cover-up. It's definitely a cover-up.
That's not what I'm saying. I think it's probably some, like, I don't know. Maybe the prison fucked up and I don't know. I don't think it's anything, like, crazy. But it's just interesting, I think. Maybe they accidentally left his cell open and people murdered. I don't fucking know. Maybe the prison did something wrong. I don't know. I don't think.
Well, how old was he when he died?
69. Nice.
Maybe it's just not that interesting.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway.
I feel like if it was something significant, there'd be public interest, and then whether or not they like to disclose that information, it probably would have come out. And maybe it's really fucking boring, which is probably why.
Well, I still want to know even if it's boring.
And then they just didn't release it.
Well, I still want to know even if it's boring.
Well.
All right, anyway.
Nobody cares.
Wow, fuck yourself. What a dick. So why is it still so popular today? You might be wondering quietly to yourself as you listen to my soothing voice. Why do we want to believe in ghost stories that are obviously not real? Maybe there are things out there that can't be explained, but it's obvious that this was legitimately just a fucking cash cow that everybody wanted to milk. Ayo. To put this to bed, I want to end on a quote from a letter that Ron DeFeo Jr. sent to journalist Marvin Scott. Quote, "There was no demon. You know who the demon is. I am the demon." And that is the story of the Amityville Murders. Thanks, guys, for listening. If you like what you heard, which we know you did, you probably loved it, feel free to give us a like, leave us a review, tell all of your friends, and don't forget to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FCK That Podcast.